I want to start today's episode with a question. What does this Pokemon remind you of? If you said Mega Heracross, you would be correct. Would you be surprised if I told you that this was originally Pinsir's evolution? Pinsir was going to evolve at level 42, as you can see here. I will be showing some other mons later on that seem to have been redesigns of demo Pokemon, along with Pokemon that initially were planned to be released in Gold and Silver. Now that you've seen that Game Freak isn't afraid to recycle Pokemon designs, let's get on to the Meltan discussion and its possible history. The Gold and Silver demo from Space World 2000 graced the internet a few years back. With it, we found out about many cut Pokemon and an entirely different design for Johto and Kanto. With this came the discovery that Ditto was going to evolve using a metal coat. Because it was just a demo, we don't know how the metal coat was going to evolve it. If you hack a metal coat, it will not let you do anything with it, most likely because they didn't intend for you to have it. I will say that it was the only mon that was going to evolve using the metal coat. Depending on how long in development this decision was changed, it could have been the reason that the metal powder was made, to still give Ditto a way to evolve by his own special item. If you read Japanese or looked at Ditto's evolution, you might know it was a normal type. We'll discuss that a little bit later. Before we do that, we'll talk about the elephant in the room. Ditto's evolution looks nothing like Meltan. To that, I say, look again. While it obviously does not have a hex nut on its head, it does have some sort of headpiece. And that is actually a better connection to designs than quite a few mons have to their beta designs. On the screen, you can see quite a few Pokemon that had drastic alterations to their original designs. One of the most drastic changes being Bayleaf. And let me just say, thank God. That little flying grass mole just looks disturbed. Porygon 2 is the Pokemon that really makes me believe Meltan and Ditto's evolution are one and the same. This beta design looks nothing like the Porygon 2 we know, at first. If you look past the silly dog face, the idea is similar. They took Porygon and rounded his body out. Porygon 2 ended up looking like a sleeker upgrade to Porygon, instead of this dog-faced lion bubble mane having snowman wannabe that he used to be. They decided that instead of making this change drastic, they will make the change more subtle. When you look at Meltan and Ditto's evolution in that light, they don't look so different after all. If we take Ditto, color change him to silver, add the hex nut from Meltan, they look almost identical. Also, keep in mind, we don't know how far into development they were when these Pokemon were cut. So for all we know, the design could have been much closer to Meltan's by the time it was actually cut. I'm sure some people's rebuttal will be, well, if they were going to make Ditto evolve into Meltan, they would have done it in Let's Go. And to that, I say no. If you look back to Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, when you had a Gen 1 Pokemon and they had a Gen 2 or up evolution, the Pokemon would start to evolve and then just stop suddenly. The way they stopped the evolutions was very frustrating as a kid, honestly. I mean, we didn't have the internet connection that we do nowadays, so back then you were just kinda at a loss unless you just happen to have the Pokemon guide. And even then, I don't know if it actually even told you in that, cause I didn't have one. The reason they did it this way was because it was the easiest way to prevent a Pokemon from evolving. When a Pokemon starts to evolve, it checks if the player has the national dex. If it's false, then it stops the evolution. If they do have it, then it continues the evolution. It's understandable that they did it this way because it was super quick and, most importantly, it took up less space. And when you were working with megabytes, every byte counts. Nowadays they don't have this issue, so they could have just completely prevented Ditto from evolving or just not included the evolution data as to hide it from homebrewers and modders. Not to mention, I don't believe that Zubat even tries to evolve into Crobat in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Anyway, the only way to get a Gen 1 Pokemon to evolve into their Gen 2 or up stage is that the player has to get the national dex or a Pokedex with data of new species of Pokemon. That's not really something that we had in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It was more of just a Kanto restricted Pokédex. I think that if they do make Ditto evolve into Meltan, we will see it happen in Sword and Shield. If they don't, then this will just be a confirmation that this was probably just a recycled design after all. However, Game Freak and the Nintendo company have been rather clever here recently. In their latest Pokemon Direct, the Gym Stadium scene teased a possible special date. Shout out to Dallas, better known as the Supreme Arcanines, for pointing this out. If you look at the player's jersey, his number is 65, the same date that the Direct happened, June 5th. The gym leader's jersey said 8/31, foreshadowing August 31st. You may now be asking, how the heck does this have anything to do with what we were talking about? Well, if you recall the Pokemon Go event where Meltan was teased, every caught Meltan transformed into Ditto. In the YouTube series that they did with Meltan, Ditto played a vital role into understanding Meltan in general. It just seems so in your face to not have any connection whatsoever. Kind of like the strange souvenir in X and Y, foreshadowing Kawaii in Sun and Moon. Also, kind of like where it was Lieutenant Surge's autograph in your bedroom in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, foreshadowing Let's Go. It just seems too obvious to not be a clue. I said we would get back to the whole mismatched typing thing, so let's just go ahead and hop into that. Yes, it's true, Ditto's evolution is normal type in the demo. However, keep in mind, there was no way to actually see this Pokemon in the demo. Same goes for Scizor, Magnemite, and Magneton, who were all also not Steel type. Another piece of evidence that supports this theory is that the baby Vulpix was a water type Pokemon in the Space World demo. Obviously it was meant to be a fire type, as it being a water type with a flaming fur look going on doesn't make much sense. Not to mention, in the rest of the line, they're all kind of fire types, so yeah. All the non-accessible Pokemon might as well have just been bird types for all we care. It's pretty clear that they were more concerned with working on map design and layout than they were with the minor details that could be ironed out later. As someone who has done quite a bit of mapping and modding, sometimes you just have to stop focusing on the little things for a bit and work on the big picture. If you're still not convinced, but you've stuck around this far, I just want to say thank you for listening to my wild theories, but I probably can't say anything else to convince you, and that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions. To the people sticking around because they've just enjoyed it so far, even bigger thanks goes out to you. Before we wrap this up, I want to briefly go over a few more drastically changed Pokemon, and Pokemon that could have been inspired by these demo Pokemon. I just said Pokemon a whole lot, jeez. First up on the chopping block are the 3 legendary cats, who ironically used to resemble some average high school students. You got your hot jock, you got the depressed emo kid, and then you also have the stoner burnout. I'm really glad that they changed Ladian's design, or else the evolution line would have kinda went like this. Oh, what a cute little bug, to, oh my god, what did I do? Please turn back, you look like you're in so much pain, I'm sorry for hurting you! Ah! The demo Mantine looks like what would happen if the Gen 1 Articuno and an actual Mantine got a little too hopped up on the happy juice and ended up having a very regrettable night. I guess we'll stop picking on the poor Pokemon and let them just fade into obscurity. Interestingly, Mime Jr., Tangrowth, Leafeon, and Licky Licky were all originally going to be in gold and silver. And can we just all agree that the old Licky Licky looked so much better? I did also want to briefly show you a few more Pokemon that could have possibly inspired later designs. Those Pokemon being these 3 water types. They all belong to the same evolutionary line. And it might just be because I've been staring at these pixels for a little bit too long, but I swear that these look like early designs of a cute Carvana, a metal Sharpedo, and a prettier Huntel. I will add that the final 2 of the 3-stage evolution are both water steel types, so that explains Metal Sharpedo's anchor and why it was cut off, and ironically, we now have a ghost type anchor Pokemon. So maybe they took the Slowbro Slowking tail idea that they had in the Gold and Silver demos and brought it to life in Gen 7 with Delmise and drudged up Sharpedo's mysterious past. Maybe we're just getting too far off into conspiracy land. However, I can bet my bottom dollar that we will see more beta and demo mons return in the future. Maybe even Gorochu, as that would kind of explain why they brought it up literally out of nowhere. With all that being said, I'm extremely excited to see where the world of Pokemon goes with its newfound hardware freedom. I know that I will be enjoying every moment of it that I possibly can, and I hope that you fellow trainers do as well. And also, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, give it a like. If you really liked it, go ahead and subscribe. But other than that, I'm gonna go take a nap. Goodbye!